the windiest bit of canal, South Oxford. I'm about here now, I think. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to go directly west. I've got to turn there 180 degrees and then go directly east. And then even a bit go south and then go west again. Before doing a U-turn, then going north. And north is where I want to go, up here. Very old canal this. It's done on contours, so to minimise the locks. So it went around these hills, between them in the valleys, which was a good idea in the 1760s, because all these were dug by pick and shovel. This is also the top pound. So the water comes from here, it falls down the left hand side, the north side and the south side via the locks. And the problem with top pounds is they can often get low because the water's coming out, and when it gets busy the locks are taking 55,000 gallons of water or whatever the figure is per lock. So you've got this long winding pound, which is also not as deep as it used to be because of the it used to be a horse drawn and there was no propellers, first on the steamboats then on the diesel boats, to mess up the you know, and silt it up by putting a wake out or waves. So it's become shallower over years. They do dredge it every now and again, but never to the original specification. Yeah, so, and it's also summer, so lots of boat traffic, so the water goes down the locks. 2, evaporation, and 3, there's no horse boats anymore, it's all chuggers turning props, which stirs up the silt and distributes it into the middle of the channel, as well as eroding the sides. Yeah, so one of the challenges of a top pound of a very old canal like this is it's shallow, and if I pile on more power, I mean I can go higher than this, I've just turned it down to make the video, but don't go any faster because you're just sucking the water under the boat and around the boat behind you. And the more power you pile on, the more fuss and silt and disturbance it makes, but you don't actually go any faster. Maximum I think is about, that's about optimum. Any faster than that and I use more fuel and stay at the same speed essentially. Maybe an absolute smidge more, tiny smidge, but using twice the fuel. So not worth doing. Beautiful round here though. Another challenge with this top pound is that its corners are pretty sharp and they're often blind because they haven't trimmed the vegetation. Yeah, that bridge should be very obvious, but there's only half of it showing, or a quarter of it showing. The point is, there might be a boat coming around that bend through the tunnel and I can't see it. So you have to slow down a lot more because you haven't got the visibility. And of course this helps to let people know you're coming on blind bends, which I do. But yeah, the vegetation could do with a damn good trim. I mean, it's beyond silly now here. So I have to slow down and then sit up and then hang right out to check there's no bow coming through. And I should be alright, but I've got to be aware to go in full astern mode. And because it's shallow, I have to row it around sometimes because it's on the silt and it won't turn. Yeah, but I can see I'm cool now. Anyway. more navigation comments. When you've got a shallow pound like this, it's essential, when you're steering a canal boat anyway, the bottom is a U-shaped of a canal, and the centre of the canal is the channel. If you go to the sides, unless it's a kind of mooring place, popular mooring place, which has been dredged a bit deeper, you'll encounter the sides and your boat will tip up very slightly like that. Same with this side. So you got to keep the boat in the channel. That's not a problem on most pounds, but if you've got a shallow pound like this, which is silted up, you get a very narrow channel where it's actually deep enough to take the boat. And if your back end hangs over very slightly to the shallower water that way, then it'll start climbing up that way. And if you hang the back out there very slightly, it'll start climbing that way, which will then send the nose over like that. And this is particularly pronounced if you've got the more power that you have on. It can quickly climb this way and then send the nose over if you don't stay bang in the channel. Oh, it happens all the time. If I pop downstairs to pick up the sunglasses or something, then the back end, oh, it's gone out the channel, it starts to head toward the bushes. And vice versa, you know, that way as well. So that's something you've got to watch out for when you're steering a canal boat. Another tip on steering a canal boat, or technique, when you're steering a boat like this around corners, you've got to keep it in the channel, as I said, right? You see that T-stud there? You see where those two ropes are attached? There's a T-bar there. That is the exact, that's the centre point of the boat. That there is the exact distance between the front and the back, and it's the axis around which the boat rolls, and it's the axis around which the boat pitches. It's dead in the centre, which is why those lines are attached to it. Because if you're standing on the bank with one of those lines, you can control the boat by just, you know, it's got the balance point. What you have to do is you've got to keep that in the channel, that T. You don't look at the front of the boat, you look at that T to make sure that stud is in the middle of the channel, because you've got 31 feet ahead of that and 31 feet behind it that pivot around that, so the back end's swinging right out now. If I keep that stud in the centre of the channel, the back end will stay in the centre of the channel. It'll swing round to follow it. So you don't look at the front of the boat, well, unless you're heading on a bearing, and then you use the sight at the very front of the, you know, the very tip of the prow there. You know, if it's a wide water and you're heading towards a certain point, then you fix that on the point and just head towards it and keep that on it. But when you're steering in a channel, oddly enough, it's the centre of the boat that you need to look at, especially on the steep corners. There you go, there's a tip for you. I'm out of the channel. You've got a lot more leeway on a deeper canal, by the way, but look, I'll let go of the tiller. You watch that back end. You can't really see it from this angle, but look, see the front's heading right over now. I have to do quite a bit of correction to bring it back. But now I'm out in the channel. So I can let go of the tiller and the boat will carry on in a straight line. See? Which is why I think a tiller is a superior way of steering a boat than a wheel, because with a wheel you've got cables and pulleys and all that, and with the tiller I can feel on my hand whether the back is in the channel or not, whether the prop's in the channel. Because as soon as it's not, I'm just turning now on this corner, I'll start to feel pressure and I'll have to counteract the pressure, which means the back is not in the channel. So you can feel it just by holding the tiller where the back end is. With the steering wheel you've got two lots of cables and pulleys and all that, and you're more disconnected from the feel of the boat steering it. Another advantage of a tiller, by the way, is I was on a tight bend up there. There was a boat parked in the wrong place, right on a bloody corner, and it was a shallow pound. And I went to go around the boat, but I was on the bottom, hitting silt. So the boat wouldn't turn fast enough. So I rode the front by pushing it like this. And you can row the front around with a tiller. With a wheel you can't do that. You just kind of, I won't do it now because I just got nose into the bank, but you shove it out like this quite vigorously, and it pushes the front around. So that's another good advantage to a tiller. It's here now, so that'll be, I believe, 180-degree bend. So I'll slow right down. We'll see how it goes. I can't steer and hold the camera, unfortunately. Be alert. Actually had to go in reverse there for a bit to give myself a bit more room. Another one of these. It's also very shallow, which isn't helping the turning. Another 90-degree bend here. Can't see anything around the corner. So slowly is the way. Again, reverse. Reverse, turning the boat. Now forward. See all that mud. It's really silted up, but less power will give me a bit more forward motion. Yeah, it's one big silt fest. Problem with silt is you can't steer on it. Once your front end gets on the silt, it glides straight on. You turn the tiller and not much happens because it has to resist all the silt, so you tend to carry on going straight on. In which case, wacky into reverse blows water under the front, lifts it up a bit. Once you've got enough water under that, then you get it in forward and it can swing the nose around. Yeah, that's cool. So I was going that way and now I'm going completely the opposite direction for another 2 miles. Then I head south, then carry on east, and then I turn north. It's ridiculous. I actually want to go up there. I've got to go 1.5 miles this direction. But as I said, it's very pretty around here, so not a problem when I've got time. This is a really overgrown bit of canal. I just pulled up for a temporary stop for a cup of tea on the only bit of Armco for miles. Armco's that stuff, by the way. Nothing up there. Quick temporary hitch on a nappy pin using the centre line. Time to get the kettle on. Yeah, pretty remote some places on this canal. If you want to get away from it all, here's the place. Yeah, back there at one of the bridge holes when I was just doing that video about being careful about going in. The bridge after that, it was a tricky corner, got in, no problem, and I thought, okay, so I was going through the bridge hole and I see another boat coming round the corner. I said, okay, fine, they'll slow down, they'll slow down, they'll slow down. No, they're not going to slow down, so I had to, go full astern when I'm in the bloody bridge hole. And then make sure that I'd cut enough of my speed so that I could then manoeuvre out and around them. And even when they came very close to me, they bumped off the bank because they didn't kill their speed in enough time. I mean, I've done it loads of times, like, just been going too fast. But with someone's in a bridge hole, you don't just full steam towards it and fingers crossed they'll get out of the way. It's just mad. But happens. So the point is that you have to keep your wits about you, because like on being on the road, it's the other Muppets that are the problem some of the times, and I've been one of the Muppets as well. But yeah, plane's making a bit of a racket. Hey, another thing is that because on the canals, the maximum you're going to go on this thing is about 4 miles an hour. You can't actually go faster, but it's really important to be able to judge the difference between 4 miles an hour and 3 miles an hour. It sounds ridiculous if you drive a car or a motorbike, but it's a big difference. If you've got a big heavy boat, 20 tons, chugging along at 4 miles an hour, it's a big difference between that and 3 miles an hour, and big difference between that and 2 miles an hour, and again between 1 and 2 miles an hour, and between half a mile an hour and a quarter of a mile an hour. You know, you don't want to, like, because single handing, when I pull in, and even when you're not, you know, someone grabs a centre line and then you go and you slow the boat down. I step aside on, I grab the line here, step off, and then slow the boat down, then tie it up. The reason for that is if you put it in reverse, it pulls so much water under the boat that the back end goes right out in the canal, and you know, you're stuck, you know, out in the middle of the canal, the back end, and then you have to pull it in again. And if you push it in again with forward, you get forward motion on the boat, and the boat's still moving. So the basic thing, you have to slow the boat down by hand, unless you do it super slowly, very slowly, and take ages to slow down. That's what you need to do. The point is, if you get off the boat and it's going 1 mile an hour, that's a big difference. It takes a long time to stop than if it's going half or a third of a mile an hour. And you've got to be able to judge really small differences in speed. It's not difficult, but it's something you need to be aware of if you're working with canal boats or, you know, steering the buggers. Still Oxfordshire, I think. Maybe Warwickshire now.